Okay, welcome back, guys. Hopefully, the first week went well for you. As we continue along, all right, I'm posting this video for Monday, and then I'll post the next video hopefully Monday, maybe Tuesday. All right, so if you get done with the day one of this lesson first, pretty quickly, you want to get rolling on the second one, I'll try to have that up by Tuesday. But anyway, we're just going to jump into it. All right, so what we're doing today is we're actually finally doing the quadratic formula. So this one is for you, Katie. So our I can statement is I can use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation. Okay, and so with our quadratic formula, we can solve any and all quadratic equations that are thrown at us. All right, no using the X method, no using guess and check. We can just straight up figure out what X equals, what solutions X might equal. Okay, so we're just going to take a look at it real quick. So this is the real solutions of a quadratic equation. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 are found using this. This right here is your quadratic formula. It's going to be your best friend. All right, I recommend memorizing it. Of course, at home, you're going to have it right in front of you. So it doesn't really matter at this point, but I would get that memorized. This is going to save you some trouble next year or the year after. Okay, and each of these letters, all right, has to do with a coefficient of a certain part in the standard form for a quadratic equation. So a, that's the number that's going to be in front of our squared term. B is going to be, all right, the number that's in front of our just x term, and then c is going to be our constant. Okay, all right, this part right here, you don't necessarily need to know the name of, but this is called a discriminant. All right, well, we won't work much with it this year. All right, the discriminant kind of lets you know what kind of solutions you have. All right, so if b squared minus 4ac is greater than or equal to 0, then you have two solutions. If b squared minus 4ac equals 0, we have one solution. And then if b squared minus 4ac is less than or equal to 0, which means it's a negative number, no real solutions. All right, so we don't really need to worry about that, but I'm just giving this little nugget of information to you, all right, for future use. So you can go into Algebra 2 or whatever, strutting your stuff and being smarter than everyone else already. Okay, so it's pretty simple and straightforward. So we're going to solve 2x squared minus 5x plus 3 equals 0 using the quadratic formula. Okay, so we start with the opposite of b. So the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5 plus or minus the square root. Negative 5 squared is going to be 25 minus 4, and then in parentheses my 2, and then my c, which is 3. That's going to be all over 2a. All right, so it's going to be 2 times 2. So if we just tidy it up a little bit, 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 times 3 is 24. and then 2 times 2 on the denominator gives us 4. 5 plus or minus. 25 minus 24 gives us square root of 1 over 4, sorry. The square root of 1 is 1, so we have 5 plus 1 over 4 and 5 minus 1 over 4. All right, and we're just going to simplify that. So 5 plus 1 is 6 over 4. That reduces to 3 over 2. 5 minus 1 is 4 over 4 equals 1. So we found our solutions. 3 halves and 1. So we're going to say x equals 3 over 2 and 1. Okay. So go ahead and give the next few try it yourself a shot. Okay. So what you want to remember is we still always have to equal 0. All right, the quadratic formula. So if you run into a problem where it doesn't equal 0, get everything on one side, and then you can plug everything in and just simplify it out. All right, so we'll come back and I'll walk you through the rest of day 1. All right, so we're going to continue with first day of 9.5. Okay, so we're moving on to a word problem now, which might seem a little bit difficult, but we can work through this. All right, so in this example, it says the number y of northern Rocky Mountain wolf breeding pairs in X years since 1990 can be modeled by the function y equals 0.2x squared plus 1.8x minus 3. When were there about 35 breeding pairs? So in the problem, it said that y represented the breeding pairs. So that means we're going to say that y equals 35. So if y equals 35, I can substitute that in for this y right here. So 35 equals 0.2x squared plus 1.8x minus 3. Okay, and remember, like I said before, all right, we must equal 0. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. So I have, and I'm just going to put the 0 at the end. So 0.2x squared plus 1.8x minus, all right, negative 3 minus 35 minus 38 equals 0. So now we can use our quadratic formula. If you need to flip over or go back, certainly can do that. All right, but it's the opposite of b. So we have negative 1.8, all right, plus minus, okay, b squared, so 1.8 squared minus 4 times 0.2 times negative 38. You want to make sure you keep any signs that are in front of your numbers with those numbers. All right, and then we have 0.2 times 2. All right, so if you would, you can go ahead and whip out your calculator, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, so just to simplify things, negative 1.8 stays the same, plus or minus. That turns into 0.4. All right, 1.8 times 1.8. All right, 3.24 minus, all right, 4 times 0.2 times 38. So it's going to be plus, because it's a negative, times a negative, plus 30.4. Okay. So negative 1.8 stays the same, plus or minus the square root. All right, so 3.24 plus 3.4 equals 33.64 all over 0.4. I'm just going to take the square root now of 33.64, and it's roughly 5.8. So I have negative 1.8 equals, or plus or minus, all right, 5.8 over 0.4. Hopefully you're doing fine so far. So that means one of our answers is negative 1.8 plus 5.8 over 0.4. And then the other answer is negative 1.8 minus 5.8 divided by 4. So I'm just going to plug those into a calculator separately. And all right, I'm going to plug them in right now. So negative 1.8 plus 5.8, all right, divided by 4 equals 1. All right, I'm going to do the same thing, but in the other direction. So negative 1.8 minus 5.8, and then divided by 4 equals roughly negative 2. Okay, so if you remember, your x was the number of years after 1990. So we got 1 year after 1990, if you can do the math. So 1991. All right, and then we have negative 2 years after 1990. So if we just add those together, 1990, 2 years before that, you had 1988. Okay, so go ahead and give that last problem a try. Okay, it's pretty much the same process. Like I did last week, I'll put up the answers to the try it yourself problems, and once you're done with that, make sure you get onto Big Ideas Math and go ahead and start the 9.5 day 1 stuff. All right, it's under the assignments, and make sure that when you finish, click the arrow by your name and hit submit. All right, some people did not submit and had a lot of questions, so go ahead and do that. Like I said, I'll post the video for day 2 as soon as I can, but I'm signing off for now.